Hi there, welcome to the Fierce Factor podcast. I'm your host, Kaylee Lindholm. And I think it's time for us women to shift the conversation in business and step into our feminine leadership to do the most iconic work the aesthetic industry has ever seen. Each week, I'll be bringing a powerful dose of strategy, sarcasm, solutions, and sass that will rev up your creativity and ignite your brilliance as you link arms with me along our shared path of personal and professional growth in 20 minutes or less. Let's go. Hello, leader. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Fierce Factor podcast. It's your coach, Kaylee here. And listen, I am recording this episode on the road here in Newport, Rhode Island for an incredible solo retreat paired with some client VIP days on the heels of their own solo retreats. And if you've listened to me for a while, you know that I invest in quarterly solo retreats to spend time with myself. I know it was very painful at first, but I have learned to enjoy my own company. And through this process, I've learned a lot about myself and about my energetic well-being and how important these moments of recharging are. In fact, I recorded a full episode about this last year. It's episode 131. It's called Protecting Your Entrepreneurial Well-Being. Check that one out if you haven't yet. And here's the thing, energy has become one of my favorite resources to measure since I became a business owner. I have developed a practice for myself to measure how the actions, the activities, and the people I engage with either charge my battery or deplete my battery. And that tool is simply to review my day and ask myself, what was the most joyous part of my day? And then the next day, I try to focus on doing more of that, because I have realized that the mental, emotional, and spiritual energy I carry with me day to day, it impacts literally everything from the way I wake up and prepare for the day ahead, to the way I interact with my team and clients, to the way I show up to mother my children. It all requires energy. And so often we get caught up in the day-to-day of business operations, and before we know it, 6 or even 12 months or more have passed, and we haven't even taken a day to plan how we will grow, build assets, and invest our earnings. On top of that, we feel exhausted by the day-to-day activities requiring our attention, and that the last thing we feel energetically motivated to do is to sit down and think and plan for our future. My gosh, right? So I use this solo retreat to gift myself expansive, emotional, and physical space to think, plan, and prepare myself for what's to come as I advance to the next level of my personal growth and professional prowess. And taking the time to retreat and plan is a powerful move to step out of the day-to-day grind in my business and into a quiet, relaxing, and nourishing space to focus on me. And so often it's the distractions of normal life that pull us away from this. And no, my family did not understand this until I took my first solo vacation and I came home like a whole new woman. Now they're like, when are you leaving, Mom? Right? And they encourage and support it. Our academy clients understand this as well. These solo vacations are a catalytic investment into the energetic well-being that will prepare them to evolve into the CEO that their business and team needs to lead them to the next level. And this is really the key to thinking more critically. And that's what I want to talk to you about today, using critical thinking skills to better understand ourselves and to articulate our vision to others. And I'm often asked the question, how can I become a more engaging speaker on stage? Or how can I become a more charismatic communicator? And I'm no expert here, but I strongly believe that the answer to this question starts with having a unique individual worldview and giving ourselves the space to develop that. Like a perspective or philosophy that belongs to you and only you. Because if you're trying to effectively communicate a viewpoint, your delivery will be night and day more influential if you're sharing a perspective that's yours. And look, I've been working for many years to become a more engaging, charismatic, and influential speaker and podcaster. And what I've learned over years of practicing this skill is that results come by learning how to be a more dynamic communicator in general. I recently read some published research that stated that around 15 million people deal with the fear of public speaking on a daily basis. That's 75% of the population. That means more than 200 million people feel nervous about talking to others. This is a true fact, yet I'm asked all the time, how do I get up on stage? How do I build my keynote? How do I get on podium? How do I become a thought leader? And I think we sometimes convince ourselves that certain people are just born to be better speakers. And while this might be true in some scenarios, please don't let this prevent you from becoming the best at anything you put your mind to. I've learned so much about communication through coaching, listening, asking questions, being curious. It's not always about the delivery, yet that's what we see. So we want to immediately focus on that. And that's why I think what I have to share with you today might help you see how much closer you are to becoming the powerhouse speaker and persuasive communicator you dream of. While I'm basking in a spacious environment, generating expansive thought and creativity, I thought it might be useful to share my personal few tips for becoming a more dynamic communicator. Number one is to know your primary goal. Sometimes we have so much to say and so many ideas that our message ping-pongs around. Start with an outline, becoming very specifically focused on your main idea. What is the one thing you want your audience to walk away feeling inspired to do? Notice I didn't say knowledge or for them to know. Dynamic speakers inspire action. They move their audience. So even if you're teaching a lesson on how to change a diaper, the goal would be to inspire your audience to feel empowered to go immediately change a stinky diaper. P.S. If you do ever give that talk, call me. I need to witness this one. The second tip would be to find a role model. Think about someone you look up to who is a brilliant communicator. Break down their style. What is it about them and the way they deliver that message that you're drawn to? Analyze their content, their delivery, their cadence, their pauses. What do they do routinely that makes their communication impactful? So here are a few examples that come to mind for me. Tony Robbins, he's motivational. He can really get someone to move and take action in 20 minutes. And he uses a lot of stories to really get them to resonate with him. Simon Sinek, he's authentic. He's relatable, instantly connecting with his audience. He's one of the good guys. One of his superpowers is making you feel like you're the expert, and he's helping you embrace your own power. An inspirational speaker is Steve Jobs. He sees vision and he knew how to move a crowd because he was showing them possibilities that didn't exist. Another one is Oprah, and she's empathetic. She looks in the eye of her audience, asking deeper questions, creating a really safe space for them to feel all the feels, to really be willing to open up to her, to talk with her. And if you don't have any, off the top of your head that really inspire you, just Google some of the top paid motivational speakers in the world. Joe Rogan, Magic Johnson, Damon John, Dave Ramsey, Joel Osteen, Susie Orman, to name a few. So follow these guys and gals, analyze what they're doing, and feel empowered to adopt some of those strategies into your own methods of communication. Tip number 3 is to simplify. And I'm not talking about dumbing down a message. It's simply more about simplifying your message so you're actually delivering a main idea in a clear and influential way that your audience will understand and retain information. So, for example, Brooke Castillo uses this analogy. You don't want to give away a bag of groceries, right? You want to give them the meal, and then they will be more likely to want to make the recipe themselves. So essentially, you're focusing first on outcome and then the process. A lot of times we want to talk about the whole process, help them see the bigger picture. How can they be impacted by understanding and adopting that philosophy? And then what's the process to getting there? Simplify it for them so they don't have to do it while you're talking. Number 4 is to use data. Read, know your facts. Open a Wall Street Journal, ladies. You don't have to have written a study to research data and world events and develop context around your own conclusions. Too many times I hear presenters talk about trends, which is amazing, but actual numbers are way more compelling and tangible for your audience. While general ideas may provoke thought, specific analytics command action-worthy attention. Tip number 5 is to tell stories. I mean, you guys, storytelling is the most obviously talked about marketing play out there. Stories help your audience connect with you and also helps them tie a personal experience to the message you're delivering. Back to the baby diaper lecture. I could launch into the 5-step process for changing a diaper, or I can tell a specific story about how skipping one of those steps resulted in acidic pee spouting all over the wall on my favorite painting and now has faded drip stains forever embedded into it. Which approach evokes a visual experience for you? Don't ask me why I'm on the diaper analogy today, but I'm going with it. Also, read between the lines to notice how the story I chose to share with you will either draw you in and help you relate, or it will repulse you, which as a communicator helps me more intimately align with the people I consider my ideal audience. You're welcome. Tip number 6 is captivate in your first impression. A client recently gifted me a book by Vanessa Van Edwards called Captivate. And in this book, she breaks down what she calls the science of succeeding with people. She believes that making a killer first impression is the ultimate social weapon. Essentially, what we're talking about here is becoming intentional about the impression we leave behind during interactions with others. In this book, she talks about how first impressions are critical, and she coined this term she calls leveling up. She states that first impressions are basically a survival mechanism. When you meet a person, you have to quickly decide if you want them in your life or not. So like, ever heard of the fight or flight response? It's a way that your body instinctively reacts to external stimuli and decides if you should stay or you should flee. And this is why first impressions are so swift and decisive. Your audience, or stranger for that matter, is trying to answer 3 basic questions about you during the first few moments of interaction. Level 1, are you a friend or a foe? So this is where our subconscious is doing a personal safety check. Level 2, are you a winner or a loser? And when we first meet someone, we want to quickly assess their confidence. Do they look like a leader or a follower? And then level 3, are you an ally or an enemy? So are you someone they would want on their team? We need to answer these 3 questions in a matter of seconds. And using our body language, eye contact, and helping others feel relaxed around us helps us with this process. Notice someone who is a master at working the room, right? They have a way of making every person they interact with feel seen, heard, and appreciated. Take this approach versus trying to be the person that other people look up to. Instead, help them feel like the most important person in the room. Which brings me to point number 7. Stop making it all about you. Most novice and truthfully many experienced speakers approach their communication with themselves in mind. How will I look, sound, deliver my message? Or I'm the expert here. I'm going to share all of my knowledge, right? They're talking a lot about their own experiences without helping to tie a direct connection to how that's going to help impact or really relate to what the audience is thinking and feeling. When you truly know and care for the well-being of your audience, you can shift the narrative to showcasing them and their brilliance, helping them see a light at the end of the tunnel and feel more empowered to trust themselves and take meaningful action. Tip number 8 is to practice failing. Think back to when you started doing what you do. And now think of where you are and the amount of expertise and knowledge and experience that you have. There is no amount of tips, coaching, curriculum, knowledge that can supplement the practice of doing your craft. For me, speaking is a lot like swimming. You can be an expert at all of the mechanics of swim strokes and breath and all the things, but until you throw your ass in the water, you can and will not swim. This part sucks, but learn from your own experiences. I listen back to every single podcast and live speaking engagement, and I evaluate myself so I know how I can improve next time. And ultimately, the more you do something, the more natural you become. Tip number 9, formulate your own philosophy. How many times do you listen to people say the same damn thing and feel like, yeah, I've already heard that, or someone said that yesterday, right? We tend to hear something awesome and then want to repeat it. But dynamic, well-paid communicators, they have their own independent thoughts. And you do too. But you need to spend some time with yourself to really formulate your worldview so you can communicate it with clarity and conviction. Take some time out, perhaps a solo retreat, hint, hint, to explore your own disruptive philosophy. How does your perspective shift traditional models of thinking and ways of doing? You can even take a generally basic concept and stimulate thought around its power. Take Brené Brown, for example, and her research on vulnerability. Who would have ever thought that we would all be shouting from the rooftops that vulnerability is a superpower? And tip number 10 is know your own why. Are you looking to educate, inspire, build your brand, grow your audience, build your network, or get paid? Knowing the reason you're putting yourself out there will help keep you pushing to improve, but also keep you on track to make sure you're in front of the right audiences and on the right stages. This past year, I hired a coach to help me develop my keynote because my goal is to become a highly paid speaker, which for me meant branching out of industry. And this has taken me way out of my comfort zone, but knowing my end goal has been crucial to helping me stay the course and to push myself to try to improve with each and every word I speak. Okay, leader, it's been amazing taking this quick little break to chat with you, and I cannot wait to return home as a woman who is well rested, clear on her goals, and confident in the assets that she has architected to get her there. And P.S., we are developing some really powerful tools for you to help guide you through the strategic planning process and experience of a solo retreat. So if this is something you might be interested in, stay tuned for that announcement via email. If you're not on our email list, sign up today at klcconsultants.com/join so you can be up in the know and in the loop on all the cool things we're working on. All right, Goddess, I hope you've enjoyed this week's podcast. I will chat with you next Monday morning. Wait, before you go, if you're vibing with this conversation and want to join me on my mission to help 1,000 inspiring and intentional women cross the next $1 million milestone in their business this year, or maybe you want to become one of them, head over to Facebook and join our free community, the Fierce Factor Society. Over there, we are taking this conversation to an elevated level. Get access to resource guides, podcast supplements, and guideposts, direct communication with me and my expert team, and of course, a society of fierce women making big moves and disrupting the status quo in aesthetics and wellness. You can link directly through the show notes or head to Facebook and search up the Fierce Factor Society. See you there, Goddess.